What if I tell you in the next 90 days you will go from solving random DSA problem to become interview ready candidate, especially for MAANG level companies? And this strategy is already working for hundreds of people. Sounds crazy, right? I know, but this is not a dream. This is a structured roadmap which converts the average coder into confident interview candidate. In this video, I will be breaking a proven 90 days MAANG roadmap which consists of data structures, system designs and mock interviews. I will be dividing this 90 days into a week by week where I will be talking about what to study, how to revise and how to attend mock interviews. Also, I will be telling you how to balance system designs and data structures more efficiently. Same time, for each and every topic, I will be telling you what you have to study and what are the practice problems you can refer to. So stay till the end of this video to get best out of it. Also, to make things more easier, I am deciding to break this 90 days of roadmap into 3 phases of 30, 30, 30 days, in which the first 30 days will be completely focused on foundation of data structures to make things more easier. The next 30 days will be completely focused on advanced data structures and the remaining 30 days will be on system designs and mock interview. And trust me, if you follow these 90 days consistently, even the result will surprise you. So if you're confused about what to study, where to study, how can I begin? This video is completely for you. So grab your notebook and let's start the 90 days MAANG roadmap. Phase 1, Mastering DSA Foundation. When I started my preparation, I told myself one thing: no matter how good my resume is, no matter how good my projects are, if I'm unable to solve a basic data structure problem, I can never clear any interview. So before we start solving complex problems, it becomes a lot more important for us to have a strong grip on the foundation of data structures. And that is the reason why I will be dedicating the first 4 weeks of our 90 days roadmap into mastering one of the programming language and foundation of data structures. So the week 1, mastering programming language. So before we start into solving complex problem, let's master one of the programming language. You can choose any programming language which you like, whether it is C++, Java and Python. While learning these languages, make sure that you are having a strong grip on the basic syntax of these languages, like how to take user input, conditions, loop, functions, array, list and basics of hash map. Now, if you want to strengthen your basics, there are certain set of practice questions which you can practice. For example, find the factorial of a number, count the total number of digits from the number, check whether your array is sorted or not. So these problems will help you to have a strong grip on the basics and the syntax of your programming language. Also at the same time, make sure that you are not just writing the code, but you are learning to write a clean code. Your variable names, your function names should be up to the mark. And don't just copy paste the code, learn the flow of your program, how the functions are getting called and where the data is flowing. Because this is how you will train your mind to prepare for interviews. Week 2, arrays and string. Now we have become so strong in the foundation of programming language, so it's time to move to arrays and string. For your information, 40% of the interview problems are from arrays and string. So we need to make sure that we are thoroughly good with these topics. But there are lots of problems available on arrays and strings on so many platforms. So do we need to practice every single topic or every single problem? Hell no. But there are certain set of patterns on which for sure questions will be asked. For example, sliding window and 2 pointers, prefix sum and string manipulation. Now, in order to strengthen these patterns, there are certain set of practice problems which you can refer to so that you have a strong grip on these patterns. For example, 2sum, maximum length of subarray with minimum sum, the longest length of substring with non-repeating character, valid palindrome. These are the problems which you can practice to get better in these patterns. Also make sure that don't just write the code or solve the problem. Identify when to use which pattern, how to recognize which problem is based on which pattern, because these are the only things that will help you during the interview rather than mugging it up. Week 3, linked list. Now this is a time where every single thing comes in the form of motion, and that's what a linked list comes into the picture. Now linked list, every single thing is in the terms of nodes, references, address and linking. We know that the linked list is basically of three types, and those are singly linked list, doubly linked list, and circular linked list. But before we go and solve the problems on linked list, make sure that you implement every single linked list from scratch, because this will help you to know how the nodes are getting connected, how the links are getting changed, and the internal working of linked list. Now, from interview point of view, most of the problems are asked based on singly linked list. So we will be spending more time on singly linked list problems. You can practice certain problems like reverse the linked list, reverse linked list in a group, detect the cycle in a linked list, and merge to sorted linked list. Also at the same time, make sure that you don't directly jump to solve the problem. Take a pen and paper and check how the nodes are working, how the references are changing, and how the links are getting changed. Because this will help you to know the internal working of the linked list, which will make your things a lot more easier during a time of interview. Week 4, stacks and queues. Stacks and queues are the basic building block of every interview problem. And the reason behind this is most people get confused when to use stack and when to use queue. Now, in order to master stacks and queues, there are certain things we need to follow. Number 1, as usual, try to implement stacks and queues right from the scratch. And importantly, you have to implement these data structures using arrays as well as linked lists, so that you can come to know the internal working of these data structures. Now, there are certain set of problems which you can follow to master these topics, and those problems are: find the next greater element, find previous smaller element, minimum stack, valid parenthesis, postfix and prefix evaluation. Also make sure that while solving this problem, think why the stack is needed and why queue is not used. And similarly, while dealing with queue problem, think why I'm using queue and why not stack. Now, this is a complete 4 weeks in which we have mastered the programming language and the foundation of data structure. But one thing, make sure that while dealing with any of the data structures, there are 2 things you need to take care of. Number 1, implement every single data structure right from scratch, because this will help you to know the internal working of it. Second, and the most important is, most people get confused how many problems I need to solve from every single topic. See, for every single topic, try to pick 30 problems, in which 10 are easy, 15 are medium, and 5 are hard. And now, until and unless you don't solve these 30 problems, don't dare to move to the next topic, because this will help you to cover every single pattern from each topic. Now, we have done a lot more work on programming language and foundation of data structure, and it's time to move on some advanced concept of data structures and system design. So let's check in what's there in the next phase of 90 days of roadmap. Now, for the next 4 weeks, we will be heavily focusing on advanced data structure topics. Also at the same time, make sure that you are giving enough time to these topics, because these are very advanced topics and frequently asked topics. Week 5, recursion and backtracking. Now, recursion mainly help us to increase our thinking ability, whereas backtracking help you for the pattern recognition. Now, whenever we have multiple choices, recursion always comes into the picture. Also, the most important part of recursion and backtracking is the topics like tree, graph, and dynamic programming are heavily dependent on recursion and backtracking. So make sure that you are thoroughly prepared with recursion and backtracking. Most people feel difficult about these topics, I know, because it gets very difficult to identify which problem can be solved using recursion and when can I apply backtracking. Now, in order to get better in recursion and backtracking, there are certain set of problems which you can utilize. For example, rat in a maze, n queen, find out all the subset of an array and permutations of an array. Now, while solving this problem, don't just sit idle and solve the problem. Take a pen and paper and think how the functions are getting called, how the functions are returning the values, what is stack activation record, and how does recursion works behind the scene. Because as you go ahead in the topics like tree, graph, and dynamic programming, recursion becomes a crucial role. So identifying and having a strong grasp on recursion becomes a lot more important, especially in whole data structure. Week 6, binary search and its pattern. Binary search is a topic which is most underrated. But do you know what? Binary search has lot of variety of problems. And again, it becomes lot more important for us to study and identify these patterns. If you ask me, binary search is basically classified into 2 types of pattern. The first one is binary search on sorted arrays, and the second one is binary search on answers. Now, before we move on to some advanced concept of binary search, we need to first make sure that we are comfortable with basics of binary search, identify how the problems can be identified, whether it can be solved using binary search or not. So for the first stage, we will be practicing a basics of binary search so that we can become a better in it. In order to get better in binary search, you can solve the problems on the pattern like binary search on sorted arrays. For example, search insert position, search in a rotated sorted arrays, find the first and the last occurrence of a number. Now once you get comfortable with the binary search on sorted arrays, it's time to move a little bit of advance, and that's what it comes into the picture, a binary search on answers. Now binary search on answers is little bit different as compared to normal binary search. We need to alter the condition based on the requirement of the problem. To get better in a binary search on answers, practice questions like aggressive cows, cocoa eating banana, and book allocation. Also make sure that while dealing with binary search problems, ask yourself why I'm using binary search. How can I identify that this problem is related to the binary search? What is the constraint that help you to reduce the time complexity from big of n to big of log n? Now the next 2 weeks are going to be the most important weeks throughout all 90 days of MAANG roadmap, because these are the topics which every MAANG interviewers loves asking. Week 7, trees and the graph. We know that tree and the graph are non-linear data structures, but for your information, these are the topic on which most frequently asked question comes in. But most people get confused, what should I study from tree and what should I study from graph? So let's first check what you can study from the tree data structures. To get better in tree data structures, these are the concepts you should compulsory be good at: binary tree, binary search tree, and traversing techniques of trees like in-order traversal, pre-order traversal, and post-order traversal. Also, for your sake of understanding, almost 90 to 95% of the tree questions are solved on the basis of traversing techniques. So please learn this really good. There are certain set of problems which you can practice for getting better in a tree data structures, like finding the lowest common ancestor, finding the bottom view of the tree, finding the zigzag level traversal of the tree, and top view of the tree. Also, you can practice some advanced questions like finding the height of the tree, diameter of the tree, etc. Now once you become better at binary trees, you can slowly shift towards binary search trees, in which a data smaller than the root node is on the left hand side of the root node. The data which is greater than the root node is on the right hand side. So practice questions on binary search trees as well. Again, most of the binary search trees problems are solved with the help of in-order traversal technique. Why? Please let me know in the comment section. Now once you get better in a tree data structure, it's time to move a bit more advanced, and that's when a graph comes into the picture. Now graph is another variant of a tree which can contain a cycle. So to get better in a graph data structures, make sure that you know the concept like traversing techniques of the graph like BFS and DFS, how to detect the cycle in a graph, some standard algorithms like topological sort, disaster algorithm, minimum spanning trees. To get better in this, you can practice questions like find the total number of islands, detect cycles in undirected graph, detect cycles in directed graph, implement topological sort, and disaster algorithm. Make sure that you spend more time on graph data structure, because sometimes it becomes a lot more difficult to identify, okay, this is a problem which is based on graph data structures. So please give more time on it. Focus solving more on medium problems rather than focusing on easy and hard problems. Please make sure that out of 10, there are high chances of getting graph questions, right? So please practice more graph problems. Week 8, dynamic programming. Now dynamic programming is basically a technique, not an algorithm. And let me tell you that after graph, dynamic programming becomes second most frequently asked topic, especially for MAANG interviews. So we have to be again thoroughly good in it. Give as much time as you need to get master in dynamic programming. Dynamic programming is basically classified into two types called as memorizations and tabulation. So whenever you are solving a problem, try to make sure that you are solving both the ways. There are certain set of patterns in the dynamic programming in which you have to be thoroughly good at. The patterns are DP on subsequence, DP on a string, DP on 2D arrays, DP on stocks. Now to get better in these patterns, what you need to do is pick 3 to 4 problems on each pattern and try to solve. Also, while solving these problems, ask yourself that why do I need a dynamic programming? Do I have overlapping subproblems? Do I need to store the computed values for the future use? Don't just go and blindly solve the problems. Follow these steps while tackling a dynamic programming. First, get the recursive solution. Then find out, is there any overlapping subproblems? and if it is, then try to convert it into the memoization. And once you get a memoization solution, then check how can you convert it into tabulation format. Now after the week 8, you have become thoroughly good at whole data structures, right from foundations till advanced data structure. So the next phase is completely dedicated to the system designs, where we will be dealing with some real life scenarios problems and designing a scalable system. Also at the same time, I will be telling you how you can revise the data structures and balance both the things equally. So let's check in what is there in the next phase of system design and mock interviews. So far, we have completed DSA foundation and advanced data structures, which means you covered 90% of the patterns that most students struggles with. But this is the time that we will be studying one subject that truly separates a good engineers and a great engineers, and that is system designs and real interviews. So let's check in what's there for final 4 weeks of our 90 days roadmap. Week number 9, low level design. System design doesn't mean that simply drawing the boxes and the arrows. It's all about thinking how you are building scalable systems. And all this thinking basically starts from low level design. I highly recommend you always start with low level design before you jump into high level design. But most people struggle with what are the things that we need to complete from low level designs. So let's check what are the things you can complete in low level design. The first thing you can complete is OOPS concept, because low level design mainly deals with objects and classes. So OOPS concepts becomes a lot more important. Make sure that you have a strong grips on encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, abstraction. Then comes design patterns. Now low level designs without design patterns is absolutely incomplete. So there are 3 types of design patterns, that is creational design pattern, structural design pattern and behavioral design pattern. So you should know all these design patterns very well along with its implementation. Now you can implement this using either Java language or C++ language, but I highly recommend you always choose Java language while dealing with design patterns. Then comes solid principles. Now again, the solid principles are similar to the OOPS concept in design system. So solid principle basically stands for single responsibility principle, open close principle, least cost substitute principle, interface segregation and dependency injection. And once you become familiar with all these things, now it's a time to learn about classes, relationship and UML diagrams. So once you become familiar with this, go and try to draw certain system designs. You can start with the basic low level designs like designing a parking lot system, designing a library system, designing vending machine. And also at the same time, make sure that you are not mugging up anything, because system design is not about mugging up and solving the problem. It's all about how you are thinking to scale your system from 0 to the advanced level. Week 10, high level system design. Have you ever wondered millions of people are accessing YouTube, Instagram and Netflix at the same time, but still the applications are running very smoothly without a single lag? How is it happening? And that's what a high level system design comes into the picture. Do remember that before you study the high level system design, you are familiar with low level system design. Now most people get confused what are the concepts I should be really good at while dealing with high level system design. So make sure that whatever the things I'm going to tell you, you have to be thoroughly good with it. Number 1, the foundation of high level system design, which mainly consists functional requirement and non-functional requirement. So whenever the interviewer gives you the problem statement, you should able to figure it out what are the functional requirement and what are the non-functional requirement. Second component of high level system design, you have to study the things like rate limiting, API gateway, load balancing, database and CDN. And after this, try to think in terms of scaling the applications, like what is horizontal scaling, what is vertical scaling, what is sharding, etc. Now once you get familiar with these things, now make sure that you keep your hands dirty by having some practical implementation. Go and design some system designs. For example, design a high level system design for notification system or chat system, or build the tiny URL. Do remember that whenever you are dealing with the problems of high level system design, don't directly start solving the problem. Ask what are functional requirements, what are non-functional requirements, what is the scope of your applications and how many people will access at the same time, and then try to optimize and scale your application depending upon these requirements. Week 11, mock interviews and behavioral questions. As of now, from week 1 to week 10, we have completely prepared the technical things, programming language, foundation of data structures, some advanced data structures, and then we dealt with system design. Now it's time to deal with behavioral question. For example, it is asked like bar raiser in Amazon company, googliness in Google. Now behavioral questions are those questions which is basically used to judge your personality and your working style. You can expect the questions like, tell me about a time when you worked without the knowledge. Tell me about a time when you took the ownership. In order to deal with these behavioral questions, try to make sure that you draft your answer in the star format, where S basically stands for situation, A stands for action, T stands for task, and R stands for results. Also at the same time, don't try to fake anything because the interviewer can catch you at any point. Now, talking about the mock interviews, because we have already covered our whole data structure and system design, so we need to make sure that we're also revising those subjects. So what you need to do is every Sunday or every Saturday, take 45 minutes for your data structures and 45 minutes for your low level design or high level design. Pick one problem statement and start the timer and start solving the problem. Make sure that you are able to answer the question or solve any data structure problem in 45 minutes. And if you are unable to solve the problem in 45 minutes, it means you are not ready for the interview. In this way, make sure that you are practicing behavioral questions as well. Don't take it lightly, and make sure that you are keeping a habit of solving data structures and system design questions by keeping a time of nearly 45 to 60 minutes. Week 12, and that is the final week of our 90 days MAANG roadmap, and that is revision strategies. As of now, we have completed all the portion required for every single MAANG companies. But do you know what? Revision is more important than studying, because if you don't try to revise the concept, you will eventually forget what you have studied. So what you need to do is, now don't try to revise everything from the scratch. For data structures, try to revise the patterns, and for every pattern, solve only one or two problems so that those patterns can stick in your mind for a long period of time. While revising the system designs, whether it is a low level design or a high level design, make sure that you are directly picking up the problem and start solving it. Collect the functional requirement, non-functional requirement, identify the relationship, classes, and diagrams in between those two. Think how you can scale it, which caching technique you can use, how can you scale the database. Now once you get familiar with all these things, now also make sure that you are keeping a small time for revising the behavioral rounds as well, because don't ignore these behavioral rounds. Sometimes these rounds can become your final rounds to decide whether you are a good fit or not, depending upon your working style. So here is a conclusion for you, that no one can crack the MAANG companies within a single night. It takes days and days for the practice and consistency. But trust me, if you follow this 90 days of roadmap, your results will even surprise you. Now comment me below that you are ready for this 90-day challenge and you will stay consistent for these 90 days to crack any product based as well as the MAANG companies. If you really like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video with your friends who is also preparing for such big companies. And this is Pramod Bhosale, Codegreedy, where every problem gives new flight